Welcome back to the channel, basketball fans. Today, we are unpacking what might just be the most chaotic, revealing, and utterly ground-shifting 48 hours in the modern history of the National Basketball Association. We are standing right in the middle of July 2026, and the landscape of the league has just been fractured by two completely contrasting stories that tell you absolutely everything you need to know about the current state of professional basketball, ego, money, and the ruthless pursuit of a championship. On one side of the spectrum, we have a story of brotherhood completely disintegrating into violence, a shocking physical altercation between two men who went to war together for years, built around jealousy and leaked direct messages. Yes, I am talking about the unbelievable fallout between Bam Adebayo and his now former teammate Tyler Herro, a situation that escalated into a literal fistfight on a practice court in Las Vegas. And on the exact opposite side of the spectrum, we have a story of unprecedented, almost unthinkable financial sacrifice. Victor Wembanyama, the reigning unanimous Defensive Player of the Year, a player fresh off an NBA Finals appearance against the New York Knicks, has just willingly walked away from over $50 million. Let that sink in for a moment. In an era where players fight tooth and nail for every single cent, the undisputed future face of the league just told the San Antonio Spurs to keep the money. Two stories. Two completely different mentalities. We're going to dive incredibly deep into both of these massive breaking developments today, because they are deeply intertwined in what they represent about the modern athlete. How does a team culture that prides itself on unbreakable loyalty suddenly snap into a physical assault? And how does a 22-year-old generational alien look at a guaranteed $303 million and say, "No thank you, $252 million is enough. Just go get me some help." Grab a seat and settle in, because the implications of what happened in Las Vegas between Bam and Tyler, and what happened in the Spurs front office with Wemby, are going to dictate the power dynamics of the Eastern and Western conferences for the next half-decade. We are looking at a league that has been completely rewired by the new collective bargaining agreement, the terrifying second apron penalties, and front offices having to make impossible choices. These two events are the direct fallout of those immense pressures. We have blockbuster trades, fractured locker rooms, backroom contract negotiations, and a summer league environment that turned into a boxing ring. This is not just off-season drama. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the very fabric of team building and player relations being tested in real time, under the brightest lights imaginable. The Miami Heat culture, long held up as the absolute gold standard of professionalism and grit in the NBA, has been exposed as incredibly fragile in the wake of the earth-shattering Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. And simultaneously, the San Antonio Spurs Dynasty 2.0 is officially being built not just on the unbelievable talent of Victor Wembanyama, but on his profound understanding of championship economics. We're going to break down the leaked messages that set Bam Adebayo off. We're going to look at the exact salary cap ramifications of Wembanyama's decision, and what the Spurs can actually do with the $50 million he just handed back to them. We're going to talk about the Jalen Brunson effect, the Chet Holmgren precedent, and why the Supermax contract, once the ultimate prize for an NBA superstar, is rapidly becoming a trap that the smartest players are actively trying to avoid. So let us not waste any more time. Let us get right into the desert heat of Las Vegas, Nevada, where the basketball world gathered for Summer League, expecting to see rookies take their first steps, but instead witnessed a total collapse of one of the league's most defining partnerships. The situation in Las Vegas is still sending shockwaves through every single front office, locker room, and media conglomerate associated with the NBA. To truly understand the gravity of Bam Adebayo throwing a punch at Tyler Herro, you have to rewind and look at the foundation of what these two men built together. For the past 7 seasons, Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro were the pillars of the next generation of the Miami Heat. They were supposed to be the inheritors of the Dwayne Wade and Udonis Haslem legacy. They went to the NBA Finals together. They fought through grueling playoff series, endless media scrutiny, and the relentless, exhausting demands of Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley's system. They called each other brothers. But the NBA is a ruthless business, and that brotherhood was put to the ultimate test just weeks ago when the Miami Heat pulled off the absolute unthinkable, acquiring Giannis Antetokounmpo in a blockbuster trade that sent Tyler Herro packing to the Milwaukee Bucks. Herro was the centerpiece of the outgoing package, alongside Kal-El Ware, Jamie Jaquez Jr., Kaspers Dikascionis, and a mountain of draft capital. It was the kind of trade that shakes the league to its core. Giannis and Bam teaming up in South Beach is a terrifying prospect for the rest of the NBA. But for Tyler Herro, a Wisconsin native, it was an abrupt and shocking end to his Miami chapter. Now, initially, the public-facing statements were entirely professional. Just prior to this incident becoming public knowledge, Tyler Herro actually sat down for an interview with Amazon Prime Video ahead of the Bucks and Heat Summer League matchup. He sat there, smiled at the cameras, and said it was all love. He claimed he had seen the Miami coaching staff, Chris Quinn, Coach Spoelstra, the front office guys, and insisted everything was good. He talked about how it was a great opportunity for a reset and a fresh start. But behind the scenes, behind the media training and the PR spin, a very different, very toxic narrative was brewing, and it all spilled out onto a practice court at the resort's World Casino. The catalyst for this physical altercation wasn't the trade itself. It was the ultimate modern-day betrayal, leaked direct messages. In the days leading up to the Las Vegas Summer League, a series of private messages between Tyler Herro and an anonymous fan found their way onto social media. In these messages, Herro took a direct, undeniable shot at Bam Adebayo's contract and his on-court value. The exact quote that leaked read, "You should get paid $60 million to be a top-tier defender on some nights? I'm just wondering." Let's unpack that single sentence, because it is loaded with years of quiet resentment and locker room tension. Tyler Herro, a player who has battled injuries, who only played 33 games this past season, and who has constantly had to hear his name in trade rumors for years, was taking a massive, public swing at the captain of the Miami Heat. Adebayo recently signed a staggering 3-year, $166 million extension. He is widely regarded as one of the most versatile, switchable, and dominant defensive big men in the entire history of the sport. He is the engine of the Miami Heat's defense. For Herro to question his effort, suggesting Bam only plays elite defense on some nights, and to directly attack the money he earns, is a violation of the ultimate unwritten rule among professional athletes. You do not count another man's money, and you do not question a teammate's heart, especially one you want to battle with for nearly a decade. When Bam Adebayo saw those screenshots, the professional courtesy vanished. The concept of Heat culture vanished. According to multiple verified reports, Bam tracked Tyler Herro down at an AAU event that Herro was running inside the Las Vegas hotel practice facility. This was not in the heat of a game. This was not a scuffle over a loose ball. This was a premeditated confrontation. Adebayo approached his former teammate. Words were exchanged, and Adebayo struck Herro in the head area. Security had to rush the court. Herro was escorted away. Adebayo left the premises on his own accord, and miraculously, local police were not involved. But the damage is done, and it is permanent. Think about the implications of this. Tyler Herro is now heading to a Milwaukee Bucks team that is staring down the barrel of a complete rebuild in the post-Giannis era. He is supposed to be the veteran building block, the focal point of their offense. Instead, his tenure begins under the dark cloud of a physical altercation with his former captain. Will the Bucks even keep him? Reports from The Athletic indicate that his future in Milwaukee is already unclear, that the front office is listening to offers, with teams like the Detroit Pistons reportedly showing interest. Herro's stock has never been more volatile. Meanwhile, Bam Adebayo has returned to a Miami locker room that has just brought in a 2-time MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Bam is the undisputed leader of that team, but he has just shown a crack in his armor, a willingness to let outside noise and disrespect push him to physical violence. It is an incredibly ugly situation that underscores just how much pressure these athletes are under and how quickly millions of dollars and bruised egos can shatter the illusion of a sports family. But while ego and money were tearing a relationship apart in Las Vegas, a masterclass in long-term vision and selfless leadership was unfolding in San Antonio, Texas. Let us pivot to the Western Conference, to a phenomenon that is Victor Wembanyama. If there was ever a player in the history of the NBA who had a blank check waiting for him, it is Wemby. Coming off a season where he led the Spurs to the 2026 NBA Finals against the Knicks, averaging 25 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 3.1 blocks, finishing third in MVP voting and winning Defensive Player of the Year unanimously. Wembanyama is the most valuable asset in the sport. The collective bargaining agreement dictates that a player is caliber, coming off his rookie deal and hitting all the Supermax criteria like All-NBA and Defensive Player of the Year, is eligible for the Rose Rule extension. That means he could command 30% of the team's salary cap. We are talking about a fully guaranteed 5-year contract worth an estimated $303.3 million. It would be one of the richest contracts in the history of global sports. It was a complete, absolute no-brainer for the Spurs to offer it, and every single pundit on the planet expected him to sign it without hesitation. But Victor Wembanyama is not like other players. He does not think like a traditional superstar. Wembanyama looked at the $303 million. He looked at the incredibly punitive tax apron system implemented in the latest CBA, and he realized a fundamental truth about modern basketball. You cannot build a sustainable dynasty if one player is suffocating the salary cap. So what did he do? He signed a 5-year, $252 million extension. He explicitly demanded that there be no Supermax escalators in the contract. He willingly accepted 25% of the salary cap instead of 30%. In doing so, Victor Wembanyama literally left over $50 million on the table. He sacrificed a fortune that most people cannot even comprehend, strictly to give the San Antonio Spurs front office the financial flexibility to surround him with championship-caliber talent. This is an absolutely monumental decision that changes the entire trajectory of the NBA. We have entered an era where the second apron of the luxury tax is basically a hard cap. If a team crosses that threshold, they lose their mid-level exception. They cannot aggregate salaries in trades. Their future first-round draft picks drop to the bottom of the first round, and they are essentially paralyzed from making roster improvements. We saw the Boston Celtics openly admit that the difficulty of building a roster around two Supermax contracts like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown was immense. We saw Jalen Brunson take a historic $113 million pay cut to keep the New York Knicks championship window open. We saw Chet Holmgren do something similar in Oklahoma City. But for Wembanyama, a player who could realistically win the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year every single season for the next decade, to make this sacrifice before his prime has even truly begun is staggering. He posted a simple message on social media. "Spurs family, I'm here to stay. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes." That is not just a slogan for him. He just backed it up with $50 million of his own money. By keeping his salary at 25% of the cap, Wembanyama has given Spurs general manager Brian Wright a golden ticket. That extra $10 million a year in cap space could be the difference between signing an elite perimeter defender, bringing in a crucial veteran sharpshooter, or absorbing a contract in a major trade that pushes him over the top. Wembanyama understands that his legacy will not be defined by whether he made $250 million or $300 million. His legacy, the immortality he is chasing, will be defined by rings. He wants to be mentioned in the same breath as Tim Duncan, Michael Jordan, and LeBron James. And he realizes that in the 2026 economic landscape of the NBA, being greedy is the fastest way to close your own championship window. This is a level of maturity that is almost frightening for the rest of the league. You already have to deal with a 7'4" alien who handles the ball like a guard and protects the rim like a fortress. Now, you have to deal with a superstar who is actively weaponizing his own contract to build an unstoppable roster around himself. NBC Sports. When you look at these two stories side by side, the contrast is truly breathtaking. On one hand, you have the tragic implosion of the Adebayo and Herro dynamic. Two players who achieved so much together, fundamentally torn apart because one felt underappreciated and the other felt deeply disrespected by the questioning of his financial worth. Tyler Herro's jealousy over Bam's $60 million a year average salary led to a leaked message, which led to a punch being thrown, which has now cast a shadow over both the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks organizations. It is a stark reminder of the human element in sports. These are incredibly competitive, prideful men, and when you mix the pressure cooker of the NBA with hundreds of millions of dollars and the anonymity of the internet, things can turn volatile in the blink of an eye. The Heat culture, for all its legendary toughness, could not insulate itself from the basic human flaws of envy and anger. Tyler Herro is now fighting to rebuild his reputation on a new team that might not even want him, while Bam Adebayo has to answer for losing his composure and attacking a peer. It is a messy, ugly, and ultimately sad conclusion to what was once a highly successful partnership. AP News. But then you look to the Southwest, and you see the absolute purity of Victor Wembanyama's vision. He is operating on a completely different frequency. While other players are counting each other's money and leak direct messages, Wembanyama is actively telling his front office to keep his money so they can build a better team. It is the ultimate flex of true superstar confidence. He knows he is going to make hundreds of millions of dollars in endorsements, shoe deals, and global sponsorships. He doesn't need to squeeze the San Antonio Spurs for every last dime, because he knows that bringing multiple championships back to Texas will make him a global icon on a level that a simple Supermax contract never could. He is looking at the board like a grandmaster playing chess, understanding that sacrificing a piece now secures the victory later. Wembanyama's decision is going to put immense pressure on every other superstar in the league entering contract negotiations. When the best player in the world is taking a $50 million discount to win, how do you sit across from your general manager and demand the full Supermax, knowing it will cripple your team's ability to compete? Wembanyama just changed the market standard for players who genuinely care about winning above all else. As we look ahead to the 2026 to 2027 NBA season, the shockwaves of these past few days will be felt in every arena. The Miami Heat, armed with Giannis Antetokounmpo and a highly motivated, clearly intense Bam Adebayo, are going to be a terrifying physical force in the East. They have pushed all their chips to the center of the table. But the Eastern Conference is going to be a bloodbath. And over in the West, the San Antonio Spurs are no longer just a cute, up-and-coming team with a generational prospect. They are a rapidly approaching juggernaut, a team that went to finals, tasted the ultimate stage, and is now armed with unprecedented financial flexibility thanks to the sacrifice of their franchise cornerstone. We are witnessing the death of one era of roster building and the birth of another. The days of simply hoarding 3 max contracts and figuring out the rest are entirely over. The new CBA has made sure of that. The teams that will survive and thrive in this new landscape are the ones who can navigate the complex human emotions of their locker rooms, keep egos in check, and find superstars who understand that true greatness requires sacrifice. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro showed us the destructive power of pride and money. Victor Wembanyama showed us the constructive power of vision and sacrifice. It is a fascinating time to be a basketball fan. The games haven't even started yet, but the battle for the next decade of NBA supremacy is already being fought, won, and lost in the contract negotiations and on the practice courts of the offseason. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive into a truly wild week in the NBA. Keep your eyes locked on the developing situations in Milwaukee, Miami, and San Antonio, because the ripple effects of these massive stories are only just beginning. I will see you all in the next one.